This morning, the U.S. Supreme Court says it will hear the case on birthright citizenship this May. This is about President Trump's efforts to overturn what has been a right, or seen as a right, for well over 100 years. This is the 14th Amendment. How it has been interpreted in the courts and elsewhere has been that if you are born in the United States, you are an American citizen, regardless of whether your parents are here legally or not. Again, this goes to the court in May. The president says he's excited. He sees this as a chance to get rid of it. CNN's chief data analyst, Harry Enton, is here. So, this effort to end birthright citizenship.
Yes.
How do Americans feel about it?
Yeah, okay. So a lot of scholars, legal scholars, will say this is a fringy idea. And I think the American public agrees it is a fringy idea. Take a look here, ending birthright citizenship. And keep in mind, this polling specifically asked about for children born to immigrants illegally here. Look at this. Just 41% support, 56% oppose. You rarely get 56% of the country to agree on anything. But on this one, they do agree that ending birthright citizenship, even for children who are here to parents who are born or who are here illegally, they oppose that idea. And keep in mind, I've looked at every single poll on the subject, different question wording. In every single one, the majority oppose. Oftentimes, the opposition number is actually higher than this 56. If anything, this is the low level, at least at this point in time.
Okay, again, to be clear, this is a majority against the president's position on this.
Correct.
How has this changed over time?
Okay, so I want you to take a look right here, right? This is this 41% who support that idea currently. Only about 4 in 10 Americans. Take a look here. This was a stat that I think surprised Mr. Berman. He was surprised by this one. Look, he's shaking his head off on the side. Support ending birthright citizenship. We get 41% now. Look where it was in 2010 during the Tea Party craze, right? 47%. How about in the early 90s? It was a majority who supported it. The number has been going down, down, down on this particular subject, which I think is quite surprising to a lot of folks because there's obviously the anti-immigration fervor in this country seems higher. But on this particular question, support ending birthright citizenship, in fact, we're near record lows on this number, at least over the last 30 years.
And to be clear, support for deportation is rising.
Correct.
So this is running in the exact opposite direction of what you might think. Support for ending birthright citizenship is actually going down.
It's exactly right. And when this was one of those things, I kept looking at the polling data. You know, sometimes you get one piece of polling data, then you look at another, and you average it. It's just very clear. It just used to be considerably higher than that 41% right now, which again is at the higher level of the polling that we've actually been looking at.
In a million years, this is never what I would have predicted on this, which is why it's so important to see what the polls are telling us here. How about this issue in terms of being a motivator to get to the polls?
Yeah, okay. So it's not just that only about 4 in 10 Americans support President Trump's position on this. You might also say, okay, but what if it motivates Republicans to go out and vote? Again, this to me was so surprising. Makes you very motivated to vote. Ending birthright citizenship. Just 31% of Republicans. This issue actually motivates Democrats more. 51% say it makes them very motivated to vote. This is just from top to bottom a political loser for Donald Trump and Republicans. They may like his stance on immigration overall, but on this particular question of ending birthright citizenship, even the children who are here from parents who are here illegally, it is a political loser. The majority oppose it, and Democrats become quite motivated to vote, considerably more so than Republicans.
Again, so interesting given that the White House thinks it is winning the political battle right now in issues involving deportations of Abrego Garcia and others. This I know is a separate issue, but again, this is a political battle they're not winning.
This is exactly right. This is a political battle they're not winning. Democrats are winning this political battle, and if I were advising the Donald Trump White House, I'd say stick to other issues on immigration, not this one, because this one, as I said, is a political loser.
I just want to note that the courts are not riding alone here. This stuff does not happen in a vacuum. You ask scholars of authoritarianism and dictatorship, and they will tell you that it's never just one thing that works in terms of resistance. It's everything together. And in our country, specifically on this issue at the sort of sharp end of the stick here on immigration, we really are seeing all kinds of resistance and strategic refusal and sounding the alarm, all happening all at once. And it is mutually reinforcing. When you start seeing it come from all directions, it feeds on itself. It gains momentum. It gets bigger. And right now, it is everywhere. It is in the courts. It is also in communities. It is in civic life. It is in political life. It is in the press. And it is in the streets. And I mean that all very specifically and literally. This is St. Paul, Minnesota, yesterday, outside the consulate of El Salvador in St. Paul. People in the streets lining both sides of the road demanding that the Trump administration follow the court's orders and bring back Kilmar Abrego Garcia and bring back these men who they have shipped to that foreign prison. This was Santa Rosa, California yesterday. Local clergy leading a rally in support of immigrants and against what Trump is doing. This was Denver, Colorado yesterday. Again, local clergy leading a protest, a rally in support of immigrants and against the Trump administration's treatment of immigrants. This was Grand Rapids, Michigan yesterday. Local people protesting against Trump administration plans to open an immigration prison, a so-called detention facility in their community. This was New Orleans yesterday, people protesting at ICE headquarters in New Orleans, Louisiana. These students yesterday protesting against how they're going against immigrants and international students at Kennesaw State, in Cobb County, Georgia, and in Newark, Delaware at the University of Delaware. When the Trump administration took a young man who's a legal permanent resident named Mohsen Madawi in Vermont this week, the community where he lives, where he is absolutely integrated into that community, they sprung into action. They were worried that Trump's agents were going to come for him. His friends and supporters had created a text group called Mohsen Just in Case to prepare a support plan, a network, a communication in case it happened. They were with him when the arrest happened. They made sure to film it, to make sure that it was posted on social media, that they alerted the press. They had prepared for the worst with lawyers who had prepped in advance legal motions to stop him being removed from Vermont and flown to one of these immigration dungeons, for lack of a better word, 1,000 miles away in Louisiana or somewhere. And because they had those prepped in time, those motions worked. A judge was able to order him kept in Vermont while he was still in Vermont before they had time to spirit him off elsewhere. Vermonters have since been protesting at the prison where he is being held in their state. Mr. Madawi is Palestinian. He was born and raised in the West Bank. They brought Palestinian flags to show their support for him. And they banged drums and yelled as loud as they could in the hopes that he could hear them inside the prison. Now in Vermont, the Democratic leadership in the state legislature says they want to terminate their state's contract with the federal government to keep immigration prisoners, immigration so-called detainees in the state's prisons, in their own facilities. The world takes a firm stand against the administration and says they will not accede to Trump's demands. We're going to have more on that coming up in just a moment. But you know what? If you look just outside Harvard Yard, if you look at the hometown press in Boston, you will see not only standing ovation level support for Harvard choosing to wage that fight, you will also see in the biggest local paper, the Boston Globe, you'll see them today leading with a brand new investigative piece into these vigilante groups that have been claiming credit for feeding individual student names to the Trump administration for the administration to then target those people for arrest and deportation. The Globe's investigation today reviewed a so-called students deport list from one of these groups. Quote, it sometimes placed students at the wrong universities or featured people who were not even in the United States. One woman on the list was pictured wearing a hijab and identified as a Harvard student from Nigeria who had already been detained in Massachusetts. The group claimed she should be deported because her visa had been revoked in March for a pro-Hamas rally speech. Contacted by the Globe, the woman said she has never attended a pro-Hamas rally, she has never attended Harvard, and in fact, she has never visited the United States. An hour south in New Bedford, Massachusetts, the local NBC station Channel 10 has dug into this horrifying video in which ICE agents smashed through the window of a car to drag a man and a woman out of the vehicle. They report that the ICE agents repeatedly, while they were doing this, referred to the man in the car as Antonio. They insisted that that was what his name, and it was Antonio who they were looking for. Nobody in that car was named Antonio. It really does appear to be a case of mistaken identity. Local press has been covering it intensely, while ICE is defending its conduct by saying whether or not he's Antonio, the man was not in the country legally, and so, you know. The New Republic was first to report that one of the police officers responsible for the disputed gang designation for Kilmar Abrego Garcia appears to have himself been soon thereafter suspended from the police force for serious misconduct in an unrelated matter, which of course goes to a police officer's credibility on a matter like this. USA Today was first to report that in the case of the gay makeup artist who the Trump administration sent to El Salvador, potentially for life in prison, his supposed gang affiliation was due to a single officer with a history of serious credibility and disciplinary problems, including driving his car into a family's home while intoxicated, after which he was summarily fired. Now we've got increasing press coverage of the Trump administration sending get out of the country immediately letters to at least 3 U.S. citizens, 2 of whom are lawyers in Massachusetts and 1 of whom is a random doctor in Connecticut. All of them American citizens, all inexplicably told by the Trump administration that they must get out of the country within a week. And all of this press coverage, while it's depressing because of the subject matter, it is also incisive investigative press coverage. And it does have the effect of exposing the shambolic and slapdash and utterly incompetent behavior of the Trump administration as it embarks on this cruel and unconstitutional adventure for which it wants to be feared and respected. And instead, they look ridiculous and cruel in equal measure. And that has the effect of shaping public opinion about what they're doing. And that fuels not just protests, and lots of them, but also lawsuits. Reuters reporting that on Tuesday alone this week, federal judges in at least 7 states issued orders blocking the Trump administration from acting against international students that it is trying to arrest. Lawsuits.
So, folks, you could see that Trump's Easter is being ruined. His Easter weekend, as the resistance to him grows. Again, Trump's hope was that you were broken. That you, meaning you specifically, but also like, progressive Americans, non-Trump Americans, decent Americans were broken by the 2024 result. That yes, in 2017, that early first Trump term, there was a lot of resistance because people were shocked. This time Trump felt he broke you and you were just going to sit back and take it. But that didn't happen. And it's become very clear throughout the start of his term, but especially now. The resistance against Trump has never been broader than it is right now. It's not just liberals in big cities. It's not. Yes, those people, yes, but it's not just them. The resistance is in more red areas of the country than it was in the first term, at least at the beginning of the first term. Because Trump's attacks have hit his own people. The resistance against Trump has never had such a diversity of people that it does right now. He's created a broad coalition. And again, this coalition includes other countries. Canadians never liked Trump. I want to be clear about that. We never liked him. But we despise him way more than we did in 2020. And that's saying a lot. Mexicans despise him more. Europeans despise him more. The Chinese despise him more because he, on this Easter weekend, has built a coalition to destroy his.